Coming up with melodic hooks can be a real sticking point for a lot of producers. And once you've got a good melodic hook, how do you make it better? How do you make it stand out? Stick around, because I'm going to show you. Hey guys, Dilby here. Welcome back to the channel. So I work with a lot of different producers at a lot of different levels, and it's pretty much across the board. Coming up with like cool, interesting melodies that stand out from the pack, sound good with your track, sound like unique and interesting. It's a tough point for a lot of people. So in this video, I'm going to give you a few easy techniques that you can follow to create melodies that inherently work with your track, and then to develop them to be something cool and unique with a few pretty easy steps. If you like the track that's playing in the background, it's a new one of mine. There's a link in the description to Beatport and Spotify if you want to go and check that out. And as always, if you want to grab the project files from this video, there's a link in the description to Patreon where you can get project files for this video and loads of other videos. And it's one of the best ways that you can support the channel. Now let's get into Ableton and make some melodies. Alright, so here we are inside Ableton, and I've made a little project to demonstrate how we can kind of easily make some cool melodies and make them kind of interesting and a little bit different, a bit more exciting. Okay, so this is what we're working with. So cool kind of driving deep house groove, but nothing too crazy. We'll just mention most of these sounds are from Underground Shades of House Volume 2, my new sample pack. Link up here if you want to go grab it, from houseofloop.com, or Loop Masters and Loop Cloud if you're that way inclined. So the first thing we're going to try to create a melody, we want to make a riff to go along with this track, like a kind of hook kind of type thing. And the first thing we're going to try is to follow the rhythm of the track. Now, often this can be done by kind of copying the bass line to a synth. So you're kind of playing the same thing with a different sound in a higher octave generally. But because we've got this like offbeat bass line, we're playing it over 2 octaves with E. So it's a cool driving rhythm, and it gives us a good opportunity to have like syncopation, where because the bass is so straight, we can use other elements to create groove in the track. But when we copy this to our riff, which is just a one shot here, cool little sound. So if we copy this, it's gonna sound a bit weird, I can assure you that. That sounds pretty awful to me. We could try muting these bass notes. I just press 0 on my keyboard. I mean, it sounds better than it did before, but it kind of emphasizes the robotic kind of nature of that bass line, which is not what we want. We want it to sound cool and work with the track, right? If we had a different bass line, so I've got this alternative one here, which is playing like a bit more, has got some more 16ths and a bit more groove in it. So if we were using a bass line like this, then the riff thing, just straight copying it, would probably work. But at the moment, we are working with something a bit different. So we still can use the same concept, we just need to work a bit smarter. So if we listen to the percussion, we've got this kind of conga riff. So I've got a MIDI clip that I've prepared following that pattern. And let's hear it with the bass and everything. So that sounds pretty good to me, and it's inherently working with our track because we're using elements from the track that already exist there to like determine how this is going to work. We can listen to just the bass and kick together with this riff, and you'll hear that it's kind of grooving against the bass because it's got these 16th notes in it, which help to, as I said, like the bass being so straight helps to kind of emphasize the groove from the other elements. So that kind of sounds really cool to me, but it's still basically a 1 bar, right? So I think that's working, but we need to develop it because that's not really good enough. So one thing we can do is add in some delay. That's just going to sound much better. That's cool, but what I want, that's using a send. So that means the delay is happening external, or additional to the riff. But in this case, I think I want to use a delay on the track. So we were using a 16th note ping pong. That's the same as the send. But the reason I want to use it on the track in this instance is so that we can sidechain it, duck it when the kick is playing. So that sidechain is being applied to the delay as well. So it just feels a little bit more controlled. So that's a nice one. So the next step, which is something I talk about a lot on the channel, is going to be to extend the loop. Now there's two ways we're going to do this. The first one is by basically following the pattern of these congas a little more closely. So the pattern of the congas doesn't just go over 1 bar, it goes over 2 bars. Right, so we can kind of mirror that. This is 2 bars, but it's the same on each bar. So all I'm going to do is literally add an extra note at the end here, which I know kind of mirrors what's happening here. So now, because we're playing something different on the second bar, it sounds like 2 bars instead of 1, so it's much less loopy. But we can emphasize this length even further by adding an additional element, and it's just going to be a 1-shot. So I've got this chord here, and let's put in a MIDI clip. I've got 2 bars there. That's a bit long. Let's try this down an octave. Okay, so that's happening over 2 bars, but so is this. So why don't we duplicate this or increase it to 4 bars. So now we're just accentuating the start of each 4-bar loop here. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. I might just add in a little side chain to duck it up from the kick. But on this instance, I'm going to use this band button, which is basically adding a filter to where the sidechain is applied, and I'm just going to apply it to the low, mids, and sub frequencies, so everything below 350 Hertz. Sounding good. If we wanted to have this kind of a little bit more differentiated, we could even try like duplicating this and maybe play the first one up an octave. Something like that. So now we've got an 8-bar loop with these melodies, or with these melodic elements. So the next technique is going to be to split the riff. And what I mean by this is playing the same riff, but over 2 sounds instead. So I've got another sound here. So I've duplicated it here and called it split riff. What we're going to do is I'm going to turn off the second part of the MIDI here on this original riff. I'll duplicate that down. Let's open that up so we can see what's going on. Now I need to turn off all the MIDI and just turn back on the ending part. So we're alternating. This one's playing the front and this one's playing the back of the riff. Now we can literally just go through some different sounds until we find something that jumps out and sounds good. So that sounds pretty cool to me. Let's add a little EQ here, maybe a bit more sustain. Maybe we'll find something better. But you know, basically just doing this, working with different sounds until you find something that's complementary. So generally you want sound that's quite different. If one's maybe a sawtooth, then maybe something that's like square or FM based, you know, even something that's like a sawtooth and then something that's also maybe a sawtooth but has a bit more resonance or something. You just want those things to sound different and complementary to one another. Maybe this one we could work with. That's cool. I might just add some filter on that to kind of sit it in a little bit nicer. I'm going to add a little envelope because we want to get it kind of nice and plucky like the first one. So those two sounds are clearly distinct from one another. You can hear that they're very different when they play, but it is playing that original riff which worked with the rest of the track. It's derived from the rhythm of those congas, so we know that it works with the track. So now we've got these melodic elements that just really sound like they're supposed to be in the track. Okay, for the last technique, I'm going to turn off this riff and use a different style of sound. I've got this here, a bit more aggressive, and I've got this MIDI pattern. So this is something that I've just come up with. It's a different style of riff. It's what I would call a motif, and it's not derived from the rhythm of the other tracks. It's done in a different way. It's basically just a cool little pattern that still kind of works with the rest of the track. So we do still want to extend the loop because while it's happening every 2 bars, it's still repeating every time it plays. So let's duplicate it, and I'm just going to move this note here. So now each time it plays over 4 bars, it's going to be slightly different. Sounds good. Okay, so how are we going to make this more complex? So what I'm going to do is duplicate it. We'll call this one Motif 2, and we're going to basically just move this along a bit. Don't think we want it to be like exactly 1 bar. We could try that, but let's just put it off a little bit, and then we'll loop it here and start working with it. So what I want to have here is a very different sound that's basically mirroring what's happening on Motif 1. So I'll just go to this. I might turn off the filter and let's go to hot swap. So that's what we've got now with Motif 1. Something like that. You know, it's in another octave. It's brighter. Let's have a listen. Okay, so it's not quite working. Let's try this filter back again. So we bring that down. Well, let's try it so it's actually a full bar apart. I think that doesn't quite work. What about half a bar apart? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now I want this to be down lower. I'm going to turn off this delay on the second one because again we want it to be kind of have some separation. Yeah, I think that is, it's just a bit more detailed and intricate kind of rhythm. So what I want to do is I'll just move this back here And then in the MIDI, I'll shift this so that we are offset a bit. How was it? I think like that. So that sounds pretty cool to me. That gives it quite a unique sound, right? It's like those things work so well together, but it just adds a whole nother layer of depth and dimension to the track. And it really reinforces this motif. If we wanted to try something to create a little bit more differentiation, but still preserve the motif, we could try like just using the second half of it or something. What I mean by that is turning off these, so it's not exactly repeating. But the timing doesn't quite work for that. So maybe... And let's add a bit less envelope for the filter. Maybe I'll turn this one on. Very nice. So that's a really cool trick that you can use to make a more of a motif style riff work with a bit more depth and interest. You could even take this further by putting different effects, like maybe a chorus, flanger, different delays, different reverbs. The opportunities are endless. So just get stuck in, have a play. So there's some simple steps that you can go through to elevate the elements of your track and really infuse some kind of depth and interest to your simple sounds. And the techniques are pretty simple, but they really go a long way. As always, if you want to grab the project files for this, there's a link in the description to Patreon, and you can go in there and have a look at the MIDI, have a look at the sounds. All the sounds are pretty much from Underground Shades of House Volume 2, and along with this project file, you're going to find the project files for loads of different videos. There's like hundreds there now. So get over there, have a look. There's a lot of resources there to get stuck in with and get inspired from. All right, guys, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that interesting. What did I miss here? What are your hot tips, hot techniques for the community? Let me know in the comments. How do you make your melodies? If you like this video and you're looking for something to watch next, then check out this one. I think you're going to like it. That's it from me today. We'll catch you next time. Peace.